Hello everybody, welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to bake some bread for squad 4. Well, not for squad 4, to show squad 4 how I make it. It's not a science, it's quite straightforward, and hopefully we'll end up with 2 nice loaves at the end of it. So without further ado, I'll get on with it. I'll show you the ingredients I'm using and then show you how I make it. So I use trusty old fashioned scales. I use a strong white bread flour, and that's from Aldi. They've just started doing it. 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 1 teaspoon of salt, 310 millilitres of water, and some dried yeast. And that is it, folks. That's all I use. So first of all, we're going to measure our flour, and we need 500 grams of the strong white flour. So just pop it on the scales and get 500 grams of flour, and there we go. Just put that to the side and pop that into the bowl. And that's all we need of the weighing of the scales. So we'll pop those back in the cupboard because we don't need those again. So, got 500 grams strong flour, and we're now going to pop in a teaspoon, I use this, a teaspoon of salt, so you put the dried ingredients in first, and as I'm led to believe, quite important is to keep initially the salt and the yeast away from each other, because salt will kill yeast. Once it's mixed in, it doesn't matter, but initially it does. So I've used packet yeast, nothing special. So I'll pop that into the other side. And then mix the salt in onto the left, well, on the left hand side there I've mixed the salt in, and then the yeast on the right hand side. And then apparently after that it doesn't matter, then mix it all in together. Just mix it all in, and that is it for the dried ingredients. So now I'm going to pop in 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And apparently this just binds things together. And then mix all of that oil in with everything else. Pop the salt in. I think the most important part of bread making in my mind is the kneading, and they recommend 10 minutes, and I wouldn't say that that's wrong. You know, the more kneading you do, the better in my opinion. And then just being patient with it. You know, wait until the dough rises to twice the size. So got the wood burner going, so I'm going to take it into the lounge afterwards. Right, so now I pop the water in all in one go. There we go. There's the water all in one go. So now to mix it in. Mix it in. I'm mixing it in with just a metal spoon. Then I use my scraper after so I can get all of the dried flour from the sides. And you can see it starting to come together. So now I'm going to use the scraper. It's very handy because it gets all the dried flour from the sides. So just turn this over a few times. Sorry if my hand's in the way. So I've got most of the stuff off, so I'm going to pop this down onto this tray now, and I'm just going to quickly wipe the bowl over, so I'll be back in a second. Just so that so there we go, nice clean bowl. So now's the fun part. So it's really kneading this for anything up to 10 minutes. If it gets a bit sticky, which it does sometimes, just use a dab more of flour, but not too much because the ingredients are quite precise. So, you know, if you keep chucking flour on, then it's counteracting the proper measures. So, you know, nothing difficult. Just keep turning it over until it's got a really good consistency. I sound like Jamie Oliver. Tess has just come in to have a look what's going on. Is there any food, she says. Do you want some bread? Do you want some bread? I'll give you a biscuit. For those who haven't seen it, Tess had her first walk in the snow this morning, so head over to my YouTube channel and have a look. I will upload this as well, providing it all turns out well. So you can tell when when it's nearly ready by pressing your finger in it, and if it pops up straight away, it's not far off. But we'll give it a few more minutes. Just pulling and stretching the dough. And then I will leave it for an hour or probably 2 hours until it rises, and then I'll explain the second stage or the third stage. So gives you a good workout kneading dough. I'm going to take it off this tray actually now. There we go. Just put a little bit down on the surface. That's it, a bit more room. And when I put it in the bowl, in the glass bowl, I generally put a bit of olive oil in the bottom of that so that it doesn't stick. But that's, you can see that now. You press your finger in and it pops out quite quickly. Don't know how long I've done. I was going to set a timer, but it's not sticky anymore, and it's doing well. I'm hopeful. So the next thing you'll see after I've popped this by the wood burner is hopefully that it's risen twice the size, and that's when we take it out, cut it into 2 loaves because I've got 2 bread tins, and then we push, it's called proving, we push all the air out. You don't have to do that for such a long time, and then pop it back in the tin until it rises again. And then the final thing obviously is cooking it, baking it. So I think this is nearly done now. It's a good consistency. So what I'm going to do is pop a bit of oil in the bowl. Only a dab, just to make it so that that doesn't stick. So that is the first stage. So now what we do, I will take it into the wood burner. Well, not into the wood burner, but by the wood burner. And we've got a nice fire going there. So I'm just going to pop a plastic tub over the bread and leave it now for a period of time, and I'll be back to you later. So after a couple of hours, the bread has risen at least twice its size. So we'll get this out. What we'll do now is cut it in half because we're going to make 2 loaves. So just move that onto the side from there. It's a little bit sticky, so I need a little bit more flour. This is where you just push all the air out of it. And often you can hear it popping with the air coming out. So I don't know if that's picking it up on the GoPro, but so just pushing the air out. You don't have to do this as long as the kneading, just a few minutes. And then I've prepared 2 greased tins for them to go in. I'll probably leave it another hour just for them to rise again. So that's pretty much the first one. So just pop him in the tin. And the second one. The same with that one, just knock all the air out of it. So we'll pop this one in. And what we're going to do now, same as we did before, just going to pop this bowl over, and again in about an hour's time they'll have risen to the top of the tin, and then it's into the oven. So see you a little bit later again. So everybody, the final stage now. Put the oven on to about 230, 240, perhaps a little bit more. Just preheating the oven. There's also a tray of water underneath that creates some steam, which helps the baking of the bread. So over to the bread that has now risen. So what I'm going to do now is just make a couple of cuts. So just make a couple of cuts. The final stage is to spray the bread with a bit of water as well to make it moist. Just waiting for the oven to heat up now, and then we'll pop it in for 25 minutes to 30 minutes. And as I said, there's a little pan of water underneath to create a bit of steam. And a 25-minute timer, and we'll see you when we're done. Okay, so I think the bread is now ready. It's just been over 25 minutes, so I'm going to turn the oven off and see what we've got. Steamy GoPro. Let's bring the bread out. There's one. And there's the other, so we'll just tip them out. And the other one. I'll do this with one hand. And that is 2 loaves of really nice crusty bread. I will show one cut up a bit later, but they're just finished now. Final thing to do is to cut a piece of bread. And there we go. Really soft. Don't mind if I do.